Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews, where today for our weekly Friday video we're going to be checking out a track from an act named Fujii Kaze titled Forever Young. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on YouTube. Now this track was requested by Blue Dinner Box 13701370. I'm looking forward to checking this out. I do like my Fujii Kaze. I haven't heard much of it recently. Good to hear more. Gonna listen through it from start till finish, and we're gonna hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. Instantly really pretty with the keys. It's a complicated harmony though. Great additional arpeggiating there.
Baby, this night I remember you gave me all the light when I surrendered. You let me know that I know nothing at all.
Really smoky tone to his voice.
Takes forever just to love who we are. Don't you be scared, we're together. 3960 or whatever. As long as we're here, we're forever young. We can be born again and again, 'cause every single day's your birthday, baby. As long as we're here,
Just a great fill transition there. Really comfortable with that progression there as well.
I'm just a boy who strives for eternity. And we're just kids with infinite energy. I know we're gonna know the truth eventually. We are more than we think we are, so have some dignity. Hey, we were children oh so long ago, but we still got a long, long way to go. Come on over, let's go higher. Takes forever just to love who we are. Don't you be scared, we're together. 3960 or whatever. As long as we're here, we're forever young.
Great legato there.
Be born again and again, 'cause every single day's your birthday, baby. As long as we're here, be forever young. Baby, let me give you my heart, give you my all. They're no longer mine. You've come and saved me countless times. From you I got nothing to hide. as long as we're here, we're forever young, young, young. And we can live more.
Yep.
Cause every single day's your birthday, baby. As long as we're here, be forever young, my love.
Very 80s with the synths and the toms. Reminds me of a lot of music from that time. Even the pads, I suppose. Is that it done? That's crazy how fast that flew by. That was almost 6 minutes. That's nuts. Oh, that was really cool. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to be able to hear that. We're going to talk about this track more in the conclusion. Because welcome to the conclusion where I review this track from an act named Fujii Kaze, titled Forever Young, where effectively we're just going to do an overall song analysis. I don't usually talk about what I'm going to do in these conclusion sections. This is my overall song analysis plus any applicable constructive critique, and then finally my overall thoughts on it as a listener. I think that this is a really, really special song. But well, first of all, what do we think this track is about? I think that this track is about Fujii Kaze effectively trying to appeal to a wider audience. I get the impression sincerely that he is trying to celebrate the joy of being young, at least from like a mental perspective. You know, like trying to find the joy in life and pretending, like not pretending necessarily, but like living like it is a certain time period so that we don't age, so that we don't get tired and don't get stressed out or frustrated, you know, spending that together. Whoever it is, whatever facet, there's just a sense of romanticism, I think, about being young. And he's sort of like celebrating it within this. And also, I think, just trying to provide a positive counter perspective to a lot of what a lot of society is pushing nowadays, which is, you know, it's just doom and gloom a lot of the time with certain things on the internet, especially. So I think that I appreciate the messaging. I feel like there'll be an audience for this. I mean, I think this on YouTube alone has gotten 1.7 million views, with people really wanting a music video for this. So it'll be interesting to see if he gets around to that. It does take a while to make a music video, so I wouldn't be surprised, even if this is uploaded 2 months ago, if he's in the behind the scenes currently working on a music video for it. But either way, just a really, really cool song from like a subject perspective. Part of what makes the song work so well, or at least the story works so well, is how he sings it. He's singing in English, which I think will appeal to a wider audience. He's a Japanese musician, so he does often sing in Japanese, but his English is very good too. He explores his head and chest voice, very comfortable in his vocal range. He's not happy to not just have his main vocals, but he also has like vocals that go to this from the sides there, like an very interesting 3D effect in like the second verse, where it goes wow behind the headphones. So I thought that was kind of neat. But there's cool responses, vocals on the sides there, and he uses different ranges for those different parts to help them to contrast and pique interest, as well as to stack really neatly. He explores the complicated harmonies with some interesting chromatical parallel chords really neatly, which are just a flavor of a lot of music within the genre, but also from Japanese musicians. They use some really interesting chord progressions that are a bit more sort of unconventional outside the diatonics. And I just really enjoyed listening to the actual the effervescent nature of the vocals in general. There's a great sort of energy and a relative glow and positivity to it that I feel is important when you're trying to sell this kind of thing to a listener. There were interesting use of chromatics from the vocal perspective as well, which helped to navigate things. And we also had like a mixture of a more kind of intense performance in the louder parts, whilst also being a bit more kind of like smoky or kind of like Like it's like a nighttime conversation that he's having. There's like an inherent sweetness to it in those more low-key parts. So from an expression perspective, it's very effective as well. That storytelling and the vocal performance carried over a track that is almost 6 minutes with various verse and chorus parts. And honestly, it flew by. And that within itself is one of the biggest compliments I can provide, because the moment that you're transported from that 0 to 6 like that, you know you've got a good song. I will admit that it's just kind of very soothing to listen to, so you're kind of encouraged by how it sounds to kind of sit with it, especially given the subject matter, the relative quote-unquote feel or vibe of it, especially because he's talking about enjoying and celebrating, but not in an over-complicated or like super intense way. I'm not surprised that it was a very kind of relaxing experience listening to this. There is enough instrumental variety to be able to sort of like pepper it and keep it interested if you're actively listening to it. But I feel like from a passive listening perspective, it's just very, very good. You have this wonderful, really pretty glow to the keys at the start there. They're not just, they kind of sparkle in the mid to upper register there. They sound very 80s. And I know there's a lot of music in the 80s, and it's not fair to just say 80s music is that kind of synthy pop, reverb, latent, crystal kind of keys tone. But I think part of what he's going for here is that kind of audience that kind of remembers what things used to be like back then. I feel like there's an audience of people who like younger people who like this kind of music, but then it's also kind of targeted, I think, at a wider audience, primarily because of the feel of that stuff. I just also think that there's been a lot of the more kind of like, how do I say this? To just want to have something kind of breezy and kind of like almost nonchalant, despite the importance of the subject matter. It's just really charming. And the keys immediately both show a confidence in Fujii Kaze to not need himself to be the focal point immediately. He knows that people will just sit and listen to the music he's involved with. And there's like a really kind of calming rhythm and flow to it, and like pattern rhythmically, where, you know, you might start with quarters or like slower notes, but he does kind of amend the intensity of and add further or quicker notes there, but it's not a rush, you know. Later on, when you have those kind of basses that are kind of more kind of peppy and sequenced, they provide a further sense of groove with the 8th and 16th notes, with some of the other key parts over top being held notes that contrast with their length and provide an interesting overall variety of different rhythmic devices within a piece. But there's like a quarter note groove or accent overall, which kind of helps you to dance along to it. And just the kind of breathy reverb that Fujii Kaze has over the verse sections, alongside that, again, it's just very distinct. It's a deliberate decision stylistically, and I think production-wise as well, to have this feel to it. It almost makes it seem nostalgic. I feel nostalgic even though I was not around in the 80s. I think that when you bring the drum kit in, and it's still got this kind of boxy feel, I think it would be an electric kit if I'm not mistaken. You've got these kicks and these kind of like scratchy snares, but that are kind of short enough to kind of pop in the mix. You have these toms which go backwards and forwards in the stereo field either side of the headphones, you know, like, and it's just fun sound design there. It's just, in a track like this, you kind of have enough confidence in Fujii Kaze that they don't need to use an acoustic drum kit to make it too real. It's almost like we're living in the fantasy of it, so the electric drums work. And I think the synth pads that you have in some parts of the chorus as well elevate it further. It's not just that we have additional vocal layers and Fujii Kaze is a bit more sort of intense and has more presence in that hook section, but there's just more going on to add sort of segmentation there. And like as we go further through it, we have these arpeggiated keys which and they kind of like swirl and swiggle around, and it's air candy-ish kind of stuff that adds depth as a sub layer. And there are adjustments of the perceived feel of it, like around the 3:15 mark where things sort of slow down and you've got more of a hi-hat kick bass drum oriented part there. And I think if you'd had that dun the entire time, it would have become a little bit monotonous. There can be a cool rhythmic device there that works well fundamentally musically, but in a 6-minute song, if you have too much of it, it becomes dull because you've already heard it, you know. And as we go further through the track, you have more kind of intense or kind of like technical, longer drum fills to adjust the feel of different choruses. But like overall layering wise, you might get more of Fujii Kaze with vocals in different parts. You might get a slightly louder mix at that point. But ultimately, I just do think it's also meant to be kind of smooth. Any sort of dynamic range is mainly produced by taking and adding things. Around the 4-minute 25 mark, where you have that interlude section, it's kind of like a middle 8, I suppose. It's very like something I'm familiar with a lot of music from like the 80s and stuff like that, where they had that kind of break there, as well as in the 2000s, to be honest. Like pop music has had middle 8s for an amount of time, but it's just done in a way where you can kind of almost imagine being at a Fujii Kaze concert, and you can just imagine kind of everyone singing along in the crowd and just waving their phones or their torches or their lighters around and just having a good time. It's got a great sort of positive major environment to it. I think that if this had been in a minor key, it would have just been a little bit dire, so I'm grateful that they had a major feel and that they're using sounds that have not become too familiar by that point, especially if you've just kind of gotten sucked into it and you're just kind of part of the ether. I think part of what helps is that you have unconventional chords like parallels or chromatics or like unexpected choices harmonically. If you'd had more sort of predictable patterns, I don't think you could have made this last 6 minutes without it becoming less because the unpredictability of which chord is going to come next, or like the kind of it going against conventions, is more interesting to a lot of listeners, especially when it's done with the wrong chords, if that makes sense. It's just fun. We're just having fun with music. So if you have a cleaner, more easy to listen to section, which is more sort of like typical with the chord choices, and then you come back to a part which has similar instruments, but then you change the chord progressions there for the theme, or you have like kind of unusual chords. It's almost equivalent to having an additional lead layer, just something to sort of switch it up. I think as well, the 30-second long fade out is just a really classy decision there at the end. It's just great to have the piece kind of like know it's closing out and to give you plenty of time with the instruments before they say goodnight. You know, have additional sort of like key layer on the right there, kind of similar to the feeling that we had at the start of the track. We have a natural sort of like bell curve where we go up or down at the end, and it's just really sort of like, it's scintillating. Yeah, no, it's very reminiscent of a recording period from like the late 20th century, and I adore it. I think that, well, you know, music goes in iterations and generations, and we revisit older textures. Like I think there's been some 90s stuff that's been revisited recently. I think that's simply a generational thing. It's people realizing that when they get to a certain age, realizing, oh, the music that my parents listened to was actually kind of cool. And so they experiment with it, you know. Thematically, I feel like this track does do enough to sort of sit within a major key to justify its existence being as positive and vibrant as it is. There are some interesting choices with sort of unconventional chord types or themes that do sort of like make it more fun to listen to and more exciting for a listening perspective. I think that the kind of journey you go on with those changes or twists is paired really well with Fujii Kaze's voice, which is a reliable constant in terms of its approach. Not only do you trust that he can sing, but he can also express himself well. So you have that going on. And then it's just a lot of really fun I've said fun a lot, really, really cool instrumental choices there that offer a sense of playfulness and innocence and nostalgia with how they sort of amalgamate and interact and integrate, and there are many. I think it's 50-50 between the major key leaning as well as the instrumental choices, but also I suppose 33 all three ways. It's it's the rhythmic devices. There's a lot that comes together to make this what it is. It's a really interesting piece. It's a really interesting song. From a studio production perspective, it's wonderful. I love the clarity of Fujii Kaze's vocals throughout. I think equally importantly, the keys from the immediate start, just not only the way they sound and how they transfer you back to it an older time if you're familiar with it. Like it sounds a lot like a lot of Christmas music synths from like the 80s and stuff like that, like Last Christmas. It kind of reminds me of keys from that track. I like that, you know, the drums and the bass and again the different sort of pad and sort of like key layers are they they kind of go together flawlessly. There's no points where you're wondering why they're doing what they're doing. There are vocals that go from left to right, there's panning of those things. The stereo field is explored with the mains and the side vocals, as well as the keys stretching across that frame and the toms going do-do-do-do-do-do as well on the sides. There is dynamic range despite the gluing, but again, as I mentioned, that's mainly because of the way that the layers come and go. There is natural intensity, it like increases in it with the amount of Fujii Kaze there is in the piece, but I just feel like that's just allowing ceiling to it, and I feel it's very good. Nice level without pumping, and the bus compression limiting is handled. And just as a general comment on Fujii Kaze as a vocalist, they didn't need any help with post, they can just sing really well. So ultimately, I've got no applicable constructive critique for this. Often with a song like this where it was more sort of vocal oriented, I would potentially want a different like lead instrument or lead melody, but in this I feel that it's just completely, it's more than sufficient as it is. From a general listening perspective, just as a person, I hear this and I go, you know, how does it make me feel? I don't know if I would listen to it again, because I feel like I've had the one time with it and I've kind of gotten my fill with it from like the value I've gotten from a perspective. But I think there are people that will genuinely want music that takes them back to when they were younger, and they will appreciate this. I also just think for people that are going through a rough time, maybe they'll listen to a song like this and just be in a much happier place. I feel like that's the beauty of ironically being young, is that often when you're young, you want to get older until you want to get young again. And I just think that this is just a youthful, again, a vibrant, playful, just really nice, well-intentioned piece that's gonna do well. And clearly it has, because again, we're talking about a song with 1.7 mil views on YouTube that people want a music video for. So thank you for watching my review of this track from an act named Fujii Kaze titled Forever Young. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and their YouTube page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next SP reviews. Spiderhands out.